Hey guys, and welcome to the Shrewsbury Biscuit podcast with me, Alex Whiteley. We've got a great episode for you today. I'm really excited to bring this one to you because it's the second podcast that's becoming part of what I think is going to be a very important partnership. We come to you today from Exotic Zoo Telford today. If you guys listened to the interview we did with the owner Scott, by all means go back and listen to that and come back to this one, or listen to that one after this. But during that episode, both me and Scott discovered a passion for all things sort of dinosaurs, animals. We had a really good time on that episode, and during that episode we said, I would love to come and speak to your paleontologist. And that's what this is today. It's really cool. This is a very, very cool episode. If you like life, earth, history, dinosaurs, anything to do with paleontology or science, you're going to love this episode. Honestly, we really go into it with Tom, the paleontologist from Telford Zoo. Yeah, this is going to be a really good one. So now Christmas is kind of out the way, which is, I think, kind of a negative connotation, but you all know what I mean. We say Christmas. You know, actually, thinking about Christmas, I want to say thank you to John Edwards specifically. I mean, my family's been great. You know, I've had a great time, but I'd had a rough day at the office. Come home from work a bit tired, and I found on my doorstep, wrapped in bubble wrap, a wooden printed picture canvas of the day that me, John Edwards, and Alex Wagner painted the Greyfriars Bridge with a nice card wishing us a Merry Christmas. After a tough day, I kind of got emotional. I found that figure. I was like, it's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. I love it. It's sitting on my wall now. I can see it as I'm speaking to you. It brings a smile to my face. It was a fantastic day. Great memory of the life of a podcaster, just going out and trying to get. In fact, that photo and that what we did on that bridge has overwritten the fact that I actually lost an episode that day. I don't know if you remember. Cast your mind back. Great day. Great gift. John has turned out to be a great friend, and that's what this podcast has brought, is just constant friends and great relationships around Shropshire with you fine people. More to come, obviously. 2026, I am going to be pulling out all the stops. Biscuit behind the boom is going to be invested in heavily when we get to New Year's out of the way. Obviously, there's a pod aid plans as well, and get stuck into that. And there's an idea as well. I have an idea. If you're listening to this, by the way, and you want to work with me, there's an idea I'm working on to do a monthly podcast, more of a service to other podcasters. I want to bring podcasters together. I want to speak to other podcasters from all around the world. And there's an idea that I want to work on, but I can't do it by myself because I'm working on so much. I'm very conscious of the fact that I tend to burn out very quickly. I would like a co-host, and I would like someone to help me produce this, bring in other podcasters together in a live format, where we can test the wits and wills of other podcasters from around the world and have great conversations. There is an idea in the working, Infinite Biscuit is going to be something that runs with lots of different shows, the Shrewsbury Biscuit Beyond the Boom, and this new idea. So if you want to get involved, I will leave my contact details at the end of this podcast. We can chat, but if you know where to find me, just find me. Anyway, guys, paleontology. This is Tom, the paleontologist from Exotic Zoo Telford. I hope you enjoy this one, and I'll catch you guys at the end. Enjoy. Hey guys, how's it going? We're at Exotic Zoo Telford. And we're back again because when I spoke to Scott last time, he started talking to me about a new lab they're building, basically all about paleontology and how his ethos was about education as well as showing kids what animals do. And I said we would definitely have to come back to talk to his paleontologist, Tom. And that's what we're here to do. Hi, Tom.
Hi.
Tom, what's your surname? What's your full name?
Tom Moncrieffe.
Tom Moncrieffe. And you are a paleontologist.
I am indeed, yeah.
Right. So when I think of paleontology, what do I think of immediately?
Dinosaurs.
Jurassic Park, the whole shindig. First of all, what I need to do is we will talk about you and where you come from and stuff, but I want to understand what paleontology actually is. Mm-hmm. So What is it then? What is it a study of?
You're going to put me on the spot here, trying to...
Yeah, you don't have to go for the actual Oxford Dictionary definition of what paleontology is.
Well, that's good, because it's probably one of those, there is a definition out there, but it's such a varied topic. It's a big field. But at the same time, people get it confused with archaeology.
Yeah.
So it's similar to archaeology in the sense we dig things up, predominantly. But paleontology is about the study of extinct, dead things. So things like bones and shells and anything like that, organic stuff, things that were alive that we found in the ground.
Is it like filling the gaps of evolution? What happened to sort of animals and how they evolved from one thing to another?
Yeah, so it's progressed into that. So when paleontology first was a thing, I don't know when it was, 200 odd years ago, people started finding dinosaur skeletons. So one of the first ones was actually in the UK. And they started finding these bones and were like, these don't belong to anything. They kind of look reptilian, but a lot bigger. So that's where the name dinosaurs came from, is terrible lizards. So.
Oh, wow, okay. So extinct. So we have, obviously, in the Earth's life, there have been many mass extinction level events. What do we learn from these mass extinctions? What is it that you take from all of that?
That the Earth is incredibly fragile, but at the same time, quite quick to readapt, re-evolve, change to circumstances. So most of the big extinction events were they were either big cataclysmic disasters, big natural disasters like a meteor smacking into Earth, killed off the dinosaurs, or they can be long drawn out climactic events. So things like new forms of organisms evolving, like algae and woody plants and things, producing a ton of oxygen, carbon dioxide, things like that, changed the Earth's climate, which is something that we're seeing today.
I read somewhere that I'm going to do lots of these today. I've read somewhere, or I've seen this thing, because we're going to get onto misconceptions in a bit.
Yeah.
Like about there's too many trees in the atmosphere, too much oxygen. There's too much oxygen, and so spiders became the size of cars or something crazy. Those crazy big spiders, and then when all the trees went, when there was fires and volcanic eruptions, and what created oil today, those spiders went away. There's all these like stories that people tell, isn't there?
You're not far off there. So what you're thinking about is predominantly the Carboniferous period. So literally named for producing carbon. So basically, plants, once they came onto land, they were quite small, shrubby, things like mosses, lichens, things like that, small shrubs. And then they evolved a new material to make their bodies out of called lignin. So that's basically wood.
Wow.
Most of what wood is lignin. And that enabled them to be really strong and sturdy. That's why we use wood for construction. It's tough. And it enabled these plants to get big. So where they went from small, ground-dwelling, shrubby-like things into massive trees, some that are, rival the biggest trees we have now, but on a crazy scale, because there was basically nothing on Earth at that point, so they just took over. So not the whole, but most of the Earth was covered in these giant trees. So that was the big feature of the Carboniferous period.
So they were the biggest creatures on the planet at the time?
Oh, 100%. But what was really, really cool about that period is that because it was a new, novel, tool that plants used, lignin, nothing had evolved to break it down.
Oh, wow.
Because there was no need for it to begin with, and then it came about, and then there was nothing to digest it, basically. So for, I don't know how long, millions of years, potentially, these trees, for example, grew massive, died, fell over into these sort of swampy environments, and didn't rot. So they were just perfectly preserved there. And then that compounded and they stacked on top of each other till you get to a point where you have these big, think of big peat bogs. So all this vegetation growing on top of each other or sort of not decaying on top of each other. And you get these huge, huge areas of pure carbon organic material that then gets compressed till it turns into coal. So that's why we get coal now. It's because all these trees grew and died and didn't rot. That changed. Things did evolve lignase, which is the enzyme that breaks lignin down. And so we don't have that problem now. But one little factor that I really, really like is that shift in climate, atmosphere chemistry. All these trees grew, produced a ton of oxygen in the atmosphere, way higher than today. I'm not sure what the figure is. Maybe like 30 or 40% versus today is like 20% oxygen in the atmosphere. That allowed insects to get really big. And that's because insects, back then and today, they don't have lungs. They have these little pores in their bodies.
To just pull it out of the air.
Yeah, through osmosis, they just pull the air or pull the oxygen out of the air through these pores directly into their body. But because there was a higher level of oxygen in the atmosphere, they could just get so much bigger. Because the sort of limiting factor today, so you can be thankful of this, is that when you get to a certain body size, that method of absorbing oxygen doesn't work anymore because it can't physically get inside the body.
Yeah.
And they don't have the same sort of blood pumping around their body like we do, or lungs to directly absorb the air or the oxygen out of the air. So they got really, really big. So maybe not car-sized, but, you had definitely big spiders, that kind of thing. You had dragonflies that were the size of an eagle.
Wow.
And what else did you have? Oh, huge, like centipedes or millipedes that were like 2 meters long, 3 meters long.
That's mad. I remember walking with dinosaurs and seeing that episode. I remember it about these giant millipedes. That rings a bell now.
I think that's from walking with monsters.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, so you had like walking with dinosaurs, walking with monsters, walking with beasts.
But that's what I love about what you do is you can take something as simple as trees and turn it into this fantastical story. Not a story, but it's like all these facts that like can really help your imagination wander. You can talk about how these giant trees fell and compact on top of each other, and you can almost take yourself there. Do you know what I mean? It's really interesting how you can take a fact and lead onto another one and onto another one, and that I guess that's what drew you to paleontology. Is that how did you get hooked onto this?
So it was definitely watching things like the Walking With series, Jurassic Park, that kind of thing when I was growing up. I often say, and people often say it to me, that I have one of those jobs that you wish you had when you were a kid.
Yeah.
So it's one of those like digging up dinosaurs, footballer, astronaut, whatever. But it's one of those jobs I never grew out of. So, or maybe came back to, I'm not sure. But yeah, it's, people often say, oh, you've got like a childhood dream job. I was like, yeah, I do.
Yeah, that's amazing. And lots of research, lots of education for this then, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so you can enter paleontology from any sort of aspect of life. Like people enter it when they're later on in life. People are sort of enamored by it when they're really young, like I was, and sort of try and stick to it. So my background is did zoology as a bachelor degree. So most people in paleontology, especially in places like the States, they focus on geology because it is important.
It's in the rocks, yeah. get it, yeah.
The whole reason why we have dinosaurs is because people went out to study geology. So some of the coolest dinosaurs, like those out in the States, like T-Rex, Triceratops, all those sort of ones, those were found because they were going out and doing geological surveys. So they had never been that far out into what they call the West, but it's really the middle US. And their intention was to study the geology. While they were there, they were like, hey, there's some really cool fossils here that will help us understand what was going on in this geology, in these geologic periods, to try and understand what they were. Were they marine, were they terrestrial, what things were going on at that time. But then they were realizing, wow, these things are crazy, like giant dinosaurs, all this sort of stuff. And then they were basically digging them all up and shipping them back to the UK. And a guy called Richard Owen was like describing them all. But it was a bit of like Wild West out in the States when this was going on. Both in terms of like cowboys and things, but also the paleontologists back then were really cowboys. They were going out there, they were killing each other, they were blowing up dinosaurs so that the other team couldn't get them.
Oh my God.
You need to look into it. There's a whole story called the Bone Wars.
Really?
Yeah,
so real spiteful people that would like, if I can't have it, nobody can.
Yeah, literally, yeah.
Wow.
They were trying to get the biggest and the best first.
Because it was a craze, like everything else back then.
Yeah, it's a bit like a gold rush.
Yeah, with the dinosaurs.
But less in the monetary sense.
Yeah, what's the big sell in them days? I mean, educated, I can't imagine like I say, I'm generalizing, but like the rush to learn and educate people isn't like on the top of what people are after back then. Do you know what I mean? So what's the drive there?
It's the opposite. It's not the drive to educate people. It's the drive to be the best.
No.
It's a class thing, I think. So it's like we're talking like the early 1800s, and you have these, like upper echelons, like aristocratic type people that wanted to be regarded as the best, knowing the most, having the coolest things. It was all about collecting and being the person to describe the most dinosaurs, all that kind of thing.
Like building a zoo in your country home, like they used to do a lot of that, didn't they? Lots of like exotic animals walking in the grounds.
Yeah. I mean, that's where museums came from, was these incredibly wealthy people who were like, would go out and travel the world in their youth and come back and sort of show off all these cool things. They would have a curiosity cabinet in their sort of stately homes. So basically, literally a cabinet that would have really cool things in it. So like exotic eggs, feathers, taxidermied animals that they'd shot, and then the minerals and fossils as well. And then that turned into, oh, I have the best collection ever. I'm going to show off how cool my collection is by building a whole building that is the curiosity cabinet.
And then people can come and look at what I have. Yeah. I always remember there's a scene in Gangs in New York where they got like that room full of birds and stuff, and the guy's spinning the bird around in the cage. And he's like, "You're scaring it." Like, that's what I imagine it would be. It's just people showing off what they've got. Yeah.
But then eventually, and luckily, it turned into, this shouldn't be reserved to the billionaires. It should be everyone.
Yeah.
So then these people were bequeathing their estates to like the London Natural History
Like a centralised play.
And then it all got put into one room or one building, and then it's there for everyone.
Yeah, that's really good. I mean, it's nice that it went that way, because it could have gone the other way, couldn't it? You know what I mean?
It is going that way now, though, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I mean, I do fear for sort of, there's a lot of tourist attractions at the moment. I'm a well-travelled boy. I've been around the world and stuff. But like back in the day, you go to a museum, you chuck a donation or something in before you go in. Now, if you go around London, to go to Westminster Abbey, it's ridiculously expensive. You go to York to try and get into it's expensive. Everything at the moment, it seems to be like behind a paywall, a significant paywall as well. So that education is now been taken away from people that can't afford 40 quid to go into whatever it is to go into.
That's always been the issue, though. It's even places like the London Natural History Museum, for example, which I went as a kid, and that really sort of like, wow, this stuff's real.
That's the one, isn't it?
Yeah. It's not just like the interest was sparked by things like Jurassic Park, but then wow, this stuff's actually real. This is something that I could pursue, was going to really cool big museums, basically. And a lot of these museums are free entry, but they're in places like London. So if you're in a small community on the outskirts of God knows where.
Are we still recording? Yeah, I think we're still recording. Sorry. Yeah.
If you're living in the outskirts of God knows where, like the Midlands, or like I'm from North Wales, out in the countryside, how are you getting to London?
Yeah.
It's a once in your childhood sort of like
every now and again.
Family trip. Yeah.
But I think I've been to the Natural History Museum three times. Once when I was in school, once when Timmy was a baby, and recently with him, because we went to look for Andy's clock, which might not mean anything to you guys, but for CBBS they had Andy, one of the shows that he used to do, and he used to go in his time traveling clock and go and see dinosaurs and stuff, and they had that clock in the museum, and my boy wanted to see it, so we went to see it. So you've just one of my questions was going to be you're setting up a shop here at the Exotic Zoo in Telford.
Yep.
And I was going to say to you, so what's the link, what do you get from the link between paleontology and zoos and animals? What is that link there? I mean, like, if you're obviously a trained zoologist, there's that link there, but between paleontology and living animals today, what's the link there? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so I didn't really finish what I was saying earlier.
My bad, sorry.
No, it's my fault. I got into a whole...
We're always going on a tangent on this show.
So I started zoology. That was my undergraduate degree. And what I was saying, I was making the reference to most people do geology, which is important.
Sure.
But I guess never was inspired by geology. I was inspired by prehistoric creatures, dinosaurs, etc., as animals.
Okay.
I think that's a really valuable way of looking at it. So I studied zoology first, partly because when I was doing my degree, there weren't many universities that were offering paleontology undergrad degrees. There was one or two. Now there's like 5 or 6. It's brilliant, and it's amazing for that sort of slightly younger generation. But I studied zoology first to gain that sort of anatomy.
What's in the flesh?
Yeah, like the phylogenetics, like the sort of family tree of animals, all that sort of side of things, to get a really good grasp of everything in terms of how animals evolved and what their structures mean and how they use them, that kind of thing. And then on from there, I did a master's in paleontology with the amazing Steve Broussard. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's written amazing books. He's, I think, described like, 40 dinosaurs now.
Wow.
He is actually the paleontology advisor to the Jurassic World movies, like the last 2 that have come out.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so he was awesome. So the connection with the zoo, it's an unusual one, but one I think is starting to get a bit more popularity. So in my few short months being here, I've met a few people from other zoos, and they're doing bits and bobs of the same thing. So taking old collections from other people, like bird skeletons, for example. It fails me who we were talking to, but it was a bird sanctuary. And so they have hundreds of species of birds, and it's fantastic there. But what they're doing is trying to introduce a bit more of the natural history side of stuff. So they're getting eggs and bird skeletons and sort of dot them around the zoo, and that's exactly what we're doing too. And it's something that Scott's been doing for a bit as well. So in the reptile room, in the rainforest enclosure, we've already got some crocodile skeletons and skulls across from the pygmy crocodile that we've got in the enclosure. So in there, it talks a bit about the natural history side of things. So what crocodiles are, what the different species you can get, the different sort of morphologies you can get.
Isn't there a skeleton of Steve's brother across from him? From his enclosure.
Could be, yeah. I mean, it's a really not easy, but really achievable way of getting an animal skeleton is if a very natural process of a zoo, which is you have an animal, it dies, that's a normal thing.
And you have this valuable piece of education.
And normally they go off and they get autopsied and they get burnt.
Yeah.
So it's a...
But you've got an educational tool right there. Yeah.
So that animal lives on, and it serves a purpose as an educational tool, exactly. So some people might think it's a bit macabre to have like...
So yeah, we were just talking about how museums and zoos can be both. They can offer both the same sort of things in way of education.
Yeah, so I think it goes hand in hand, talking about animals now, talking about the importance of conservation, everything like that, and paralleling that with fossils and skeletons, because they're just as important to understanding animals. I think it's really important that we're doing it here as well, because we are a small zoo in Telford, which doesn't have a natural history museum. The nearest one is in Birmingham.
Yeah, sure.
So why not utilise this existing space, this existing customer base, to educate people also on natural history? So it's sort of, it goes in hand, but also allows us to really easily, really quickly develop that side of things as well, because we're already in an existing setting.
I can't believe that there hasn't been anything like this in Shropshire until now, because this is the birthplace of Charles Darwin. You know, the granddaddy of evolution. Like, why Shrewsbury? Why have you never done this? Because I feel like it would have been just a great way to have like a Darwin's museum of this. You know what I mean? It would have just been an amazing place, a mecca for education. So I'm really proud that it's still in Shropshire. So I know it's Telford, and that's wonderful, but it's still in Shropshire. Birthplace of Charles Darwin. We've got the Shropshire Hills just across the way, which I bet offers so much information with animals and creatures, because you go out there a stone's throw away from the town, and you get a different feel, a different vibe for nature and what's around you, don't you?
Definitely,
yeah. So when it comes to looking at dinosaur skeletons and today's animal skeletons, are there many misconceptions? What people, because people always like chickens are dinosaurs. They talk about these things. Is there anything that people talk about that is a common rumor or myth, or that you can clear up with this link? I mean,
yeah, you put me on the spot. I think.
Yeah. Because birds and dinosaurs, there's a similarity, right?
Yeah, but I think people, they often make a comparison with like, oh yeah, a chicken is the descendant of a T-Rex. Well, it's technically not. Like, yes, they came from the same sort of lineage, in the same way that you or I are related to like a chimpanzee, but we were never related to a chimpanzee.
No, because we're
chimpanzees and humans are related to a common ancestor. So it's very nerdy when you get into it like that level. But yeah, there is something in that where people often think that you can like tweak a chicken's DNA back into a T-Rex. Like that could never happen.
Yeah. Because I remember there was an article a couple of weeks ago that they found an intact dinosaur embryo in an egg, and everybody's just gone, "Whoa! Just do Jurassic Park." Like you need to link that up with something else to clone it, wouldn't you?
Well, yeah. So there have been many dinosaur eggs found. There's also been dinosaur eggs found with bone, like little bones inside of them. But the thing with fossilization, especially when you're looking back to like 60 plus million years old, they literally turn to rock. Like sometimes they just about turn to rock, like the bones just sort of start mineralizing. You can do some really cool studies with looking at the sort of atomic composition of these bones, for example. And I saw a guy doing it once, and he could basically say that bone there, which is fossilized, been in the ground for 150 million years, was 99% bone. So that 1% has changed into something else or been replaced with something else. But most of it's still there. But at the same time, you also get cases where something is completely replaced. It's atom by atom, molecule by molecule is completely turned into something else.
Yeah.
You get some amazing fossilization processes in places like Australia, which is famous for opal, where you get these bones which get completely replaced by opal, and they just look stunning. But that kind of proves the point of they're not
what they used to be.
No. And there would be no chance of ever cloning dinosaurs
because there's no dinosaur DNA to link it, or there's no animals similar to it. Do you know what I mean?
It's both. So there's no DNA and there's no animals close enough that you could sort of reverse engineer it. I'll get onto that in a second, but the point with the DNA is DNA has a half-life of, I don't know how much, but it's not much. It's in the order of thousands of years. So some of these things that we're finding in like Siberia, for example, that are frozen in the permafrost, they're not fossils. They are animals that died thousands of years ago and were just put into a freezer, basically. So when they dig those out, if they choose to defrost them, they are just a defrosted animal. Might be a bit freezer burnt, but basically they've still got blood in them, they've still got muscles, hairs, all that sort of stuff. You have a better shot at cloning them.
Yeah.
But even then, that long frozen DNA denatures. So DNA is just proteins.
And it's a long code.
Very long, yeah.
A very long code, and if there's a few like numbers missing, that's it. It's not a complete, It's not a complete thread.
And that's where Jurassic Park did get it right, in the sense of you couldn't, or you'd struggle to find DNA that old from an extinct creature that is complete. So what they did in their reasoning was to fill in the blanks.
With frogs.
With frogs, for example, which created the famous quote, theme park monsters. That's what they are. They're not real. They're obviously not real, but they could never be real.
That's why when it comes to the later movies, when they're starting to mix the different species together and make super dinosaurs and things like that, people are like, it's not real. It's like, it literally fits with the ethos of the original movie. Like they literally filled in the blanks with other things and made different things. Like, yeah.
And it's I quite like the Jurassic World movies because they exaggerate that theme park monster aesthetic. And if that was real, like if they did create Jurassic Park in real life, I think they would take it too far.
Yeah. Do you think Jurassic Park is responsible for the good, the bad, and the ugly to what people think about paleontology?
100%. During the late 80s, early 90s, paleontology was getting more and more popular in the nerdy sense in the sort of scientific community is becoming really popular because they were finding cool stuff. More and more people who some people, academics, would consider cowboyish. They were just going out there to dig at dinosaurs because they thought they were cool and might be able to sell them on, that kind of thing. They were going out and digging up dinosaurs and finding more and more cool stuff, which gave the academics, people who worked in universities and museums, the chance to study these animals because they don't have much time in their sort of calendar to go out from wherever they are in a big city out to middle of nowhere and dig up a dinosaur for months at a time, which is what these people were doing. When Jurassic Park came around, it was fantastic because it surged in popularity, especially when the movie came out, because it was booked beforehand, of course, but then the movie came out and it just like accelerated that. And I think it was because it was one of the first films to ever have proper CGI, so it was like really, really special. And again, dinosaurs were starting to become popular. So it was like the perfect timing for it to happen. And then dinosaurs exploded in popularity. And that was amazing for the paleontology community because it drove popularity. So everyone was interested in it.
I bet it got people to museums as well.
Exactly, yeah. So all levels. So like kids were enthused by it, adults, as well as the sort of the scientists and the people responsible for funding. That was the big one. Funding peaked after the Jurassic Park film came out. For, I don't know how long, 20 years afterwards, it got bigger and bigger and better, which was amazing because the more funding that museums and universities had, the more they can go and do and go out and find and then bring back and study. So it was awesome. Now we're sort of seeing it sort of wean down a bit.
Sort of oversaturated now, isn't it? Like
it's a bit of that, a bit of less popularity, a bit of that's the way the world is going at the moment. People are moving on to bigger and better things. Maybe not better things, nothing better than dinosaurs, but moving on to maybe more relevant things. But I think it's still important to study dinosaurs, partly because there are some real insights into evolution that we can learn from them, but also it's a really easy way for people such as kids like myself when I grew up to become interested in science through learning about dinosaurs, because they're like a monster, you know. They're a really easily it's an easy medium to sort of entertain people and to inspire people.
Yeah, sure.
So that you drive that interest in science, and people who like dinosaurs when they were kids, they don't all become paleontologists. They go off to be astronauts or engineers or, you know, anything like that.
Podcasters.
Exactly.
I think it's good though that it's given that people that drive that imagination to want to go out and learn more or see more. I guess we're living in a consumerist world where people want to buy dinosaur things. You want to go watch the movies, you want to play the video games, but then it's keeping people interested in nature, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, and that's the subconscious side of it is like, oh, I'm interested in this thing.
Yeah, if we can inspire anyone to learn anything about anything versus learning something that arguably is less important, like a TikTok dance.
This is a question more for the kids that might be listening. We do have young listeners. Hi, guys. Which of the animals here that you see at the zoo are the sort of closest, I say ancestors in air quotes, because I know they're not ancestors, but you know what I mean, of dinosaurs? I mean, Steve's a winner, isn't he? the crocodile.
Well, you say that, but we have parrots and ducks, and they are closer to dinosaurs than the crocodiles are.
Yeah.
So a straight up answer would be the parrots and the ducks.
Yeah, the parrots and ducks. I remember what's the Jurassic World movie they did with the dinosaur with the feathers, and I was like, yes, he's got feathers. Because that's another misconception, isn't it? That the velociraptors that they put in the Jurassic Park movies probably wouldn't have looked like that. I don't know.
No, there's many reasons why they wouldn't have looked like that, and I'll forgive them because again they are theme park monsters
and they're cool.
They are cool, but you can't really blame them too much because especially when the book came out, and then to some degree when the first film came out, it wasn't widely accepted that dinosaurs could have been feathered. There wasn't enough evidence at that time, but people were thinking about it because they were like, they kind of look like birds, so maybe they would have had feathers. And then they started finding the feathered dinosaurs around that time, but only just. So, like, yeah, the velociraptors, for example, would probably have been quite heavily feathered. And then the big one is that the velociraptor in Jurassic Park is monstrously large compared to what velociraptors would have been like in life. Because velociraptors are found in places like Mongolia, and they're about the size of a turkey. So, very, very small. Not as impressive and fearsome as the Jurassic Park velociraptors. And that is largely because Michael Crichton, the writer of Jurassic Park, wanted a really cool, scary dinosaur to run around and kill people, basically. Around that time, they'd found a dinosaur called Deinonychus in the States. And that was close, still smaller, but close to what we see in Jurassic Park, the velociraptors. But it was called Deinonychus. Michael Crichton wanted a big raptor like that, but even bigger and scarier, but wanted a cool name for it. So he thought, Deinonychus, velociraptor. Ooh, velociraptor's a good name. So he stuck with that.
Okay.
So that's where that story came from, is that allegedly he named what was more closely in sort of likeness to a Deinonychus, named it Velociraptor because it sounded cooler, and then also sort of made it a bit bigger as well. But since then, we've learned that those sort of animals, like the raptors, that kind of thing, probably would have been feathered. And what's really funny is that only a few years after the film came out, they found a velociraptor-like animal, big raptor, that would have rivaled the size of the ones in the film, called Utahraptor. And if they would have included that, it would have been even cooler because it was bigger.
Yeah.
And just as fearsome.
And it's called a Utahraptor as well. America would have lapped that up, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
It's a Utahraptor. I want to talk a bit about, I mentioned about mass extinctions earlier. I want to talk about that. Is there anything that's happening in the world at the moment that leads us to think about mass extinctions? When you think about mass extinctions, is there anything happening in the world right now that makes you sort of think about that? Is there anything that we've learned about mass extinctions, should I say, that makes us think about the world around us today?
Yeah. Like I was saying, the world is a very fragile place. Like little, small changes can have a massive, massive impact. But at the same time, animals and plants are really, really good at adapting. So after each, because they took over from the dinosaur, they got big and they got really unique. So it's like, wow, they went from what most people think are just like sort of small shrew-like animals. The mammals did from during the time of the dinosaur. Right afterwards, after the big mass extinction event, the big asteroid hit, just exploded in diversity and size and amazing. But again, it doesn't take a big asteroid slapping into Earth. It doesn't take a giant set of volcanoes to go off to change the Earth's climate. It can be little things. So I mentioned earlier about the Carboniferous period and all these trees growing for the first time, growing big and growing all over the Earth and sort of taking over and depositing all this carbon as into coal, basically. And then the sort of byproduct of that wasn't just the coal, but it's also all the oxygen in the atmosphere, creating these, or allowing these insects to get really big. The other thing it did is that it cooled the planet. So it's a bit the opposite of what we've got today. So when you reduce the CO2 in the atmosphere and you increase the oxygen, you cool the planet. Whereas now it's the opposite.
Yeah.
Where increasing the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere and it's warming the planet up. So what happened after the Carboniferous period is that all this carbon dioxide was being sequestered, sort of sucked into all this living material and then being buried and preserved in coal. Yes, it produced all this oxygen, created these crazy animals, but then also cooled the planet right down. And by doing so, it actually dried the planet up. So it's the same with the Ice Age, which we're technically still in. Not the same Ice Age, but a different Ice Age. The Earth is cooler and much drier because all that moisture is locked up in the poles when it gets cooler. Similar thing happened after all these big trees grew, and that was an extinction event. So it's probably quite long and drawn out, but it changed the way that things happened on it.
So the habitat became harder and harder for these animals to survive. So they eventually
different, yeah. Like we always think big mass extinction events are times of tribulation, like
fire and chaos and fear. Yeah,
but sometimes it's like takes millions of years, and it's about that change. But we call it an extinction event because the things we see beforehand no longer exist after this sort of this line that we draw in the sand kind of thing. So you call it an extinction event because all these things went extinct. But then, realistically, things just changed into other things. But one really, really cool thing that I actually learned not that long ago, but it makes total sense, is Carboniferous. Great time period study. New things developed, i.e. these giant trees, produce all this carbon in the form of their sort of woody material that then got buried, didn't decompose, turned into coal. Cool. Create a mass extinction event. That's another little thing to keep a hold of in your brain. Fast forward to now, we found that coal. We found all that material that those trees buried in the earth 300 million years ago. We then dug it all up because we were like, oh, free energy, free carbon. This energy directly from the sun, through photosynthesis, got turned into carbon, into this woody material, then got buried and preserved for us for 300 million years. We then dig it all up in our greedy cells, dig it all up, burn it, because we're like, great, free energy, because it's just pure sunlight stored away. Well, what happened once we started burning all that carbon? We got carbon dioxide coming back out into the atmosphere, creating this new extinction event, which is modern day climate change, which is a real extinction event. We are already losing dozens and dozens of species every year, and the Earth's changing faster than we can keep up with it. That's the real scary bit, is the sort of the scale of it, how quick things are changing. Like I said, that some extinction events are really cataclysmic, big asteroid comes. Other ones are really slow and drawn out, and things can change over time.
So what's the analogy? A lobster in a pot slowly.
Yeah, it's exactly that. So we are changing the way that the Earth operates quicker than ourselves and other animals can adapt. Other plants and animals can adapt, and that's the real scary thing. That's why we're getting such a steep decline in species numbers. Why they're all dying off is because it's changing too quick. But really, really cool. So I made that link between Carboniferous period created coal. We found the coal, we dig it up, it's caused another extinction event. So this new adaptation of plants turning into trees, developing this material, which is wood, lignin, that adaptation of life, that evolutionary period, that evolutionary stage of developing into woody material, which is so commonplace now, caused 2 extinction events, which I think is just crazy to think about.
It's amazing though, because we haven't just talked about trees, but we've talked about trees and a lot, and we see trees as trees. Mm-hmm. They're just trees, but they've caused so many impactful things that have happened in the world.
Yeah.
And that's mad to think that they've I say crawled out the ocean, but they've eventually evolved from the ocean onto the land.
Well, that's the thing. Trees are now symbols of climate change, like action, like trying to reverse climate change. People are like, we should plant more trees. We're losing farmland because the government wants us to plant more trees. And it is a symbol of like regeneration and sort of combating climate change. But you think about it, all we're trying to do is replace, by growing those trees, is to replace all that material that we dug up and
and they're sitting there, they're watching the trees. They're like, you wait.
That's the crazy thing, is like we've completely destroyed Earth, potentially forever, kind of thing. It won't be the same as it was before humans got really, really good at destroying the Earth. Pre-industrial.
But once we're gone, it'll just come back, won't it?
Oh, 100%. It'll come back, but slightly different. But it will come back and it will thrive if all humans disappeared today. But the crazy thing is, all this happened during the lifetime of a lot of trees. That we just destroyed Earth during the time of one tree was just sitting there watching us. Yeah,
that's mad to think of. There's go back to Gangs of New York. I don't know why there's a link that I might have to go and watch that. But there's when one of the characters dies at the end, you see his gravestone at the end, and you see this amazing time-lapse video of like New York City building up behind that graves. Have you seen the movie?
I don't think so.
It's an incredible movie. It's a bit violent, but it's absolutely stunning. And at the end, it's set in the Victorian times. And when they die, there's like a gravestone. And then you see old New York, and then they fast forward time, and this gravestone slightly starts to wither and die while the city behind him grows up. And I just think that's such an eerie way of looking at life, that after us, the world carries on. You know what I mean? There's time carries on. What does it say? The sun will rise tomorrow. Do you know what I mean? Whether we're here or not, the world will carry on turning, you know. And that you guys are here to sort of help people understand the building blocks of life.
Yeah.
And that's what's really important. Is between you and Scott, what are your plans? I mean, Scott has made a huge effort to build this brand new lab.
Yeah.
And to bring you here. I mean, first of all, what brings you to Telford? You could have gone anywhere, couldn't you, really?
Yeah.
What brought you here specifically?
Well, the long and short of it was I came back from working in America as a paleontologist, came back to the UK, and I was desperate for work because there's not much work going on in the UK in terms of paleontology. And Scott was advertising for a paleontologist, so I applied, scoped it out. I was like, so
and here you are.
Yeah, it's quite cool. Like what we're trying to achieve here is quite special. It's almost unique. We're creating this public prep lab. So what you see in the films, what you have probably seen in museums and things, where paleontologists are behind the scenes scrubbing bones, taking them out after they've come out of the ground, taking them out of the rock to reveal these individual bones and then making them into these cool skeletons that you see in museums. How does that happen? Well, that's what we're trying to show here. Not just show. Like, yes, the lab is an extension of the museum. You can walk right past the windows into the lab. Mm-hmm. You can see into the lab, see me working away. But that's not the point. The point is to show that off as well as invite people in. That's why we're almost unique. I won't say we're wholly unique because there is another outfit that's doing something similar in the UK. We're going to invite people in. So you can come in and learn how to prep a dinosaur with me. Not saying that you're going to be a changed person afterwards and you're going to go into a career of prepping dinosaur bones, but at least it's something additional for people to experience, something hands-on, get to touch real dinosaur bones and just experience what it's like doing my job for a day.
That might spark the imagination in a young person that might 100%. Want to become a paleontologist when they're older.
Yeah, definitely.
And this is what I said to Scott when I first interviewed him. I was like, seeing a kid wanting to have an experience with the meerkats or the lemurs and feed them and care for them might spark something in them. Like, oh, I want to be a zookeeper. I want to look after animals. I want to show empathy and compassion.
Yeah. And
the same with the dinosaurs and understanding that, because I know there are a lot of naysayers about dinosaurs out there in the world, but the science is there. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can't argue with the science, and that might encourage someone to try and combat that when they're older and keep this alive. Because I guess there's a misconception that paleontology is an old man's game. Mm-hmm. I guess that's because of the movies and things we see. But here you are, young strapping lad. You're embarking on your journey to do this, and I think it's a really exciting thing for the zoo. Mm-hmm. I really do think it's going to open up. So I mean, me and Scott talked about when the weather gets better, maybe in the spring and summer, we're going to go fossil hunting.
Yep.
You got to come with us. We're going to do a part 3 where we go do get some fossils, bring them back here and prep them.
Yeah,
I think that'd be an amazing bit of content.
Yeah. I mean, we got, like I said, paleontology is really difficult to get into in the UK because there's not many opportunities. There's not much, job opportunities, for example. But at the same time, we've got some amazing stuff. We might not have like the coolest, best of the best big dinosaurs like everywhere, like they have in the States, but we still have some really cool stuff.
We just found that skull, didn't they, in the cliff down south?
Yeah. So like the Jurassic Coast is a fantastic place. Like, it's a marine deposit, so most of what you're going to get is things like ammonites. But then occasionally you'll get some really cool stuff like they call it the Sea Rex. It's a giant pliosaur, I think it is. Just a huge skull that's like the size of a T-Rex skull. It's awesome. But we can also find things a bit closer to home. So there's quite a famous fossil site in Dudley called Wren's Nest, which is a Silurian, which is a geologic time period, fossil reef So it's literally a reef that you would get in like Great Barrier Reef, but it's been fossilized, and it was like, I want to say like 400 million years ago.
Wow.
Very, very long time ago. So most what you get is things like corals, shells, and then the odd trilobite as well. But Wren's Nest in Dudley is really famous for that, because it's a place where anyone can go, short walk from the car park, collect a load of fossils off the surface, and then take them with you. Like, it's a really, really cool place because it's quite big, it's quite accessible, it's brilliant. We have found a very, very similar site. It's not exactly the same. It's not even exactly the same band of rock. It's slightly different in age, but functionally the same. Most of what you'd see is exactly the same in terms of like the animals that are in the fossils. But it's only about 4 or 5 miles away from here in Ironbridge.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's really exciting. That.
I remember walking through Shrewsbury Museum. We did a big social media thing, me and Timmy, years ago. That was a great day. I remember that. And during our trip to the museum, I remember I was a fully grown adult learning that Shropshire used to be under the ocean. And I was like, what? Because they obviously done the geology and found fossils for marine plant life and marine life, proving the fact that the UK was once under the ocean, or the parts of Shropshire, and that just blew my mind.
It was probably under the ocean and then land and then under the ocean again quite a few different times.
Yeah, because we've migrated, haven't we?
Yeah. You go up and down, in and out, across the world. For example, I've been volunteering a lot recently since I got back from the States in a fossil forest in Brumbo. That's probably why I keep talking about the Carboniferous so much, because it's a Carboniferous dig site.
Is that in Wrexham?
Yeah,
Brumbo? Oh,
in Brumbo, Wrexham, yeah.
I live in Brenteg. Wow.
Yeah, it's awesome. So it's an old coal measure, so an old coal mine.
That makes sense now, yeah.
Yeah, for Wrexham.
Sure.
And it's right next to an old steelworks as well.
Yeah.
So I think they must have started off digging coal, and then they found some iron, so like, hell, we might as well make this iron using this coal. And then it eventually closed down, and then during the reclamation works, they started finding fossils, and like, oh, this is really cool. Not unexpected, because it's coal. It's, like I was saying, it's literally made of plant material. But really, really special is when these trees were growing, when all this life was happening, they were growing vertically like a tree does, and then a river might have burst its banks and then buried it in sediment. So whereas coal is just organic material on top of each other, so layered up, squished down into coal. This is really cool because it got basically cast in place by all this sort of fine sediment that sort of flowed around them. So it's really cool because there we find tree stumps, big calamites, which are horsetails, which we still get today. And that was 300 million years ago, we still get them today. And they are not only just preserved in 3D, so you can get a really good look at them, but they're also preserved sticking upright, how they were growing in life, which is really, really cool. So it's a fantastic place to go and learn about that.
Wow, that's an hour away.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. I'm trying to remember why I got into this tangent now.
Oh, we were talking about Shropshire being under the ocean and over the ocean.
Yeah, that was it. So the really cool thing about that is during that time period, during the Carboniferous, 300 million years ago, the UK, namely places like Brumbo, there's lots up in Scotland as well, where we see those outcrops of the Carboniferous. Not to say that it wasn't also in Shropshire, but maybe a lot lower than where we are today, kind of thing, like buried under the ground. The way, like, you were sort of amazed by how we were underwater, then back up again, and down again, and back up again. We've also like moved around the globe as well. So I don't know if you've ever come across this, but the UK was once attached to the US. Mm-hmm. It's then
all together, Pangaea.
Yeah, exactly, like Pangaea. So really cool. But Brumbo has a sister site, which is basically a name for like another dig site somewhere else in the world that's like so similar that we can draw comparisons from in Canada.
Wow.
And that's partly because they were way, way closer, like between like the UK and like France, for example, like not the same, but
that would make sense, wouldn't it? Because then maybe there was a connect at one point.
Yeah.
And there's a river that maybe they threw, I don't know, you never know, do you?
Well, it's like the Giant's Causeway. You know, those amazing like columns of rock. We see them in the UK and we see them in like Canada, Newfoundland, all that kind of stuff.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, so if someone is listening to this right now and they want to, I mean, it's obviously National Geographic that you can go and watch. There's the History Channel on Disney Plus, but like there's the kid listening to this that's hungry to learn more about paleontology and have more of these conversations. Where are good places to go? Apart from Exotic Zoo, which obviously this will be open soon.
Yeah. Except for coming to see me, yeah. Honestly, in today's day and age, one of the best resources that I've come across is books. But if you're not that into reading, for example, YouTube. YouTube has amazing creators on there that do really, really good work in science communication, transferring all these sometimes unreadable passages from these academic papers into some sort of tangible context that you can listen to and watch, and they provide images and reconstructions and stuff, and it's amazing for understanding these complex systems in a really digestible way.
There's a few people out there that are making science, except Adam Hills, who's part of Nerdist for a little bit. He does some science. He takes science mumbo jumbo and turns it into something really cool. And he's always done stuff like that. How do you stay away from the pseudoscience when you're looking on YouTube? Because
it's hard. Yeah,
I imagine it's hard to pick out what's right and what's not right.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit easier for me because I've got that background.
Yeah.
So I can really, really quickly tell someone's, talking out their ass. They don't have a clue what they're talking about, or they're misinformed, let's say that.
This Tyrannosaurus Rex was walking around 2,000 years ago. Okay.
Yeah.
Next.
that whole branch of it is something very different. It's something that I'd never really come across. So, like...
I bet in America, though.
Oh, huge. So, like, it spoils it a bit, taking religion into account. Like... It's painful sometimes to watch, because you have these people that have grown up in a religious household, for example. Everyone in the community is religious, and then they're spouting these things that then a museum will spout something completely different. So they're just sort of torn. They don't know what's real and what's not, because you'd expect to be able to respect the information you would learn from a museum or a university, but it goes completely against what you've learned growing up. So it's like... it's
difficult, but carbon dating's carbon dating, isn't it? You can...
Yeah, but in terms of dinosaurs, that only gets you so far. Like, dinosaurs are too old for carbon dating.
Yeah. Haven't China just come up with is it a laser or something they've come up with recently that can date things to the year? I don't know. I'll have to look into that. Maybe that's mumbo jumbo. But I remember reading an article recently. I saw it on Facebook. I get it, right? But I read it, and apparently scientists in China have created a way of dating things very accurately with a laser.
Yeah, I've not come across that, but yeah, in terms of like hundreds of thousands of years, carbon dating is great, and you can get quite accurate with that.
Well, once the DNA chips away, or I don't know.
Well, carbon, the way that they date it is basically you have different isotopes. So you have like carbon-14 versus like carbon-12, and over time that has a half-life, just like uranium does. So over a certain time period, you have a certain amount of the carbon-14 that's denatured into carbon-12, for example. You can then do these crazy calculations to work out how much of that has changed between what it should have been when it was made and what it is now. They can then quite accurately date that based on how much it's decayed. You can do that too with other atoms, not just carbon, and that gets you a bigger sort of time frame. So I think they do it with uranium dating as well. So much, much older fossils can be dated to an extent. But I think most of it is done by looking at the geology, because everything stacks up on top of each other, these different rock layers, so they can quite accurately date how old things are in the sort of brackets of millions of years, how old something is based on what's above it, what's below it.
Man, I love the passion behind you and how easily you can roll this off. Are you still awestruck by some of this, or does it become like, I wouldn't say mundane, but like you've known about these things for a long time, but there's still things that excite you about this field?
Oh, definitely. Like, I'd say things aren't maybe as like, I'm blown away conceptually, like, my whole belief system's changed.
Shropshire was underwater?
Yeah, no. Because it doesn't surprise me, basically. Yeah. Because I know how things work in that context, because I've learned it.
Yeah.
So learning something similar for a different place, yeah, it doesn't surprise me, but it's still interesting to hear, because it's like, oh, didn't even consider that. For example, I'm going to go back to the whole trees developed something new, turned into coal, we then dug up the coal. I knew that already. But then I learned very, very recently that just because someone pointed it out to me, or I learned it on an Instagram reel or whatever it was.
Documentary, isn't it?
Yeah. That, yes, those two things are very true, but the cool thing you can draw from that is that those two things correlate to 2 mass extinctions, and that kind of blew my mind. So you do learn things every day that surprise you and blow your mind, or you see like blah has published this new thing and it's like, whoa, that's incredible. For example, the big one recently, have you ever heard of Nanotyrannus?
No.
So Nanotyrannus is this small tyrannosaur, so relative of T-Rex, that lived the same time as T-Rex. So many people, and I was guilty for this, many people, arguably the sort of mainstream, like, I don't know what the best way of describing this is, but like the paleontologists that most people would consider like the authority on this kind of thing, their attitude to this was that Nanotyrannus it could have only been a juvenile T-Rex. So it was like a youngster, a teenager.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because it looked very, very similar to T-Rex, but a little bit smaller. So it was like, okay, surely that just means that it's a juvenile T-Rex. But then there's this whole other band camp that were like, no, it has to be its own thing. Like, if you look at this stuff, it's clearly like
it's a pygmy tyrannosaurus.
Yeah, they were like, oh, it's definitely a different species because it's got these differences and it's smaller. Like, but then like, well, no, like you can have the juvenile of an animal occupy that niche of a smaller animal. Like,
of course you can.
Like
yeah,
we see that today,
don't we?
But at the same time, yes, there is the argument of yes, you have multiple different species that can occupy all those different niches as well. There's no set rule book on that. Certain environments will favour one species.
Like a Shetland pony's not a baby horse.
Exactly, yeah. So that was the whole argument. And I think the biggest difficulty with that argument was a lot of these people that were making the argument for Nanotyrannus being its own species versus just a juvenile T-Rex was the people who were digging it up, which is kind of like, well, you know, they should have an authority because they're the ones seeing the material. But what it means is that these people, who some people will compare them to like dinosaur cowboys and stuff, will dig this stuff up and then sell it on to another whoever, collector, museum, whatever, and no one will really see it. Or the sort of really influential paleontologists won't get a chance to write anything up or describe these, you know, specimens because they haven't been in the community. You know, they've just gone straight to some collector in foreign seas and they've never seen the light of day since, kind of thing. Or they choose not. This is what really annoys me. They choose not to publish about them because they're in private hands. Because there is this big argument that you shouldn't publish on specimens that are in private hands because, like, you could write this amazing thing like, oh, you know, T-Rex had, had wings. But then if that specimen tomorrow was sold to somebody else and then never saw the light of day ever again, like it sat in someone's warehouse for 100 years, you couldn't then turn around and say, no, you're wrong. T-Rex didn't have wings because it doesn't exist anymore. You know, that specimen doesn't exist. So there is that argument. But at the same time, I find it difficult to sort of support the argument because if you choose not to publish on private specimens, you are sort of promoting that taboo, that bias toward, like, against private specimens.
And I guess there's still a large percentage of the earth yet to be dug up and explored.
Oh, yeah. And this was the thing with Nanotyrannus is like, yeah, these two band camps, they were constantly...
Wow, this is an episode that's made up of like 4 or 5 different parts. My SD card is apparently really, really full, so we'll do this as quick as possible. I wanted to mention very quickly before we turn this, Graham Hancock, who is trying to rewrite history. He's the guy that was saying that the Great Flood that hit the pyramids date the pyramids back by another 10,000. He reckons there's civilizations of human beings that belonged before. This is another podcast we can go into. Mm-hmm. There are people out there talking about how civilizations of human beings were way more advanced than what we believe back in the Iron Age, etc., etc. And I know this is history, but the point I'm trying to make is there are people out there trying to rewrite history as it was already conceptualized before us. And I think there's a lot of historians that are poo-pooing Graham Hancock's research because, no, the pyramids have always been this old. They'll always be that old. You can't have somebody else trying to do that. Do people try and do that with paleontology and dinosaurs? A lot of people going, actually, we need to move it from 300 million years to this, that. Is there anybody out there that's like a rogue paleontologist that's going out there trying to change people's minds and things like that? Because Graham Hancock is like creating some amazing, he's got 2 documentaries which I encourage anybody to watch on Netflix called Lost Civilizations, I think it's called, and he talks about mass extinction events and how actually every time there's a mass extinction, every time, one of the things he talked about is how you have religions that are based over in South America, religions that are based in Africa, and they all talk about a great flood. And like, there's no way they could have known about these things. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's always these things that keep reoccurring through our history and our religion and our society, that there's just no understanding of how they would have known about the same thing at the same time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And with dinosaurs and with how we understand evolution, I guess those same things, those same questions, because we got to question these things. You got to question science, haven't you?
Yeah, you've got to question science.
Yeah.
You have to be really, really understanding in what you're talking about to create bold statements. So,
oh yeah, you got to know it.
Yeah, like, I mean, I don't know the details of
Graham Hancock.
Yeah, so I can't comment on him directly, but science changes all the time. I've never come across anyone trying to redate dinosaurs and try and push it back another 100 million years or anything like that. I think because the work they did with geology like 200 years ago and up till now has been so grounded, so, pardon the pun, so,
It created its foundation.
Yeah, like it's so... Yeah, it's so fundamental that you can't easily rewrite it. You might be able to tweak things back and forth, like in the last 34 years, they changed one of the big ones was they redated when the asteroid hit. So that was like the end point of the dinosaurs. They changed it from 65 to 66 million years ago, and that was like, wow. And that's been more or less it, I think. I think you will get cases where you're like, well, maybe this particular time period was 5 million years older than we thought because someone's found a new exposure somewhere that is slightly different. But it's hard to rewrite geology significantly because the way that geology works is that rock stacks on top of rock. And you have different colorations, you have different makeups, you have like a sandstone versus a limestone, and each one is different because it's a different environment. So is it wetter or drier? Is it marine? Is it terrestrial? Is it arid? Is it humid? Like, there's big differences, but they create very, not defined, but like, yeah, it's difficult to...
I think deGrasse Tyson, he was talking about how life maybe arrived from a comet hitting the Earth, or there's lots of discussions, isn't there? But I mean, these are the conversations that I think we need to transfer onto the next generation of young people, so they can carry on having these conversations. And I think that's what you're here to do ultimately at the Exotic Zoo in Telford, isn't it?
Is to do a little bit,
trying to inspire those conversations to happen. Like, if someone comes up to you and challenges your information, what have you got that you can tell me about that? Where's your data? And then you can have these discussions that will then spur on to something else and maybe create another paper that you can write. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? Like, and that's what we're here to do, I think.
Yeah, I don't think I'll ever give any one person the sort of the basis for them to take some inspiring comment that I made to go and, like, I don't know, cure cancer or something. But
no, but I think...
But it's just about inspiring people to be like, look, I'm doing this really cool job. It involves digging up dinosaurs, preparing their bones, setting up a museum. Like, it's really, really cool. And I'm doing that because I've got this foundation of science and because it's a scientific topic.
Yeah.
Even though a lot of what I do is, like, I go out digging things, play in the mud. I go... do like stone masonry, basically, chipping away rocks from fossils. I to some extent, you could call me an artist when I'm like designing a museum exhibit, that kind of thing. So it's like, it's massive different leaps between each sort of facet of the job, but it all comes from a grounding of science. So it's just about inspiring people like, hey, look, this is a really cool job and this came from studying science. So like, do well in school in science and you might be able to do something really cool.
Nice.
And maybe that will inspire someone to be like, yeah, I might pursue science. And they may go on and find something amazing or...
Well, you got a believer in me. I feel like we definitely need to carry on with these episodes. I've spoken to Scott. We had a meeting a couple of weeks ago. We had a content meeting because I want to do some educational stuff with you guys. I feel like some regular like what? Let's talk about primates. Let's talk about cold-blooded. Let's talk about how human beings have sort of learned to, I don't know, train wolves to become dogs. I don't know, whatever it is. We can have these conversations and have these education, and I feel like we can definitely pop in here and see how things are going, because we're sat in the lab right now, which is still being built. It's nice and warm in here actually, and I like that there's the insulation still showing because we've got great acoustics in here. It sounds really good, doesn't it? And I'm sorry about my mixer constantly breaking out. I need to empty that, I think. But it's been really good chatting to you today.
You too, yeah.
It's really good. What's the time scale for the lab? Did you know anything about that, or is that Scott's? When is it going to open? Or
hopefully soon.
Hopefully,
we've already started advertising the sale of vouchers for experiences that we're running in here.
Okay.
So prep lab experiences. We've already advertised that we're selling them on the website. So we got to have a working lab to get people in here.
Sure.
As soon as possible. So we're thinking hopefully spring 26, something like that.
Ah, brilliant. Well, we'll be here. Absolutely. I'm well excited for it. I really am. Can't wait.
Me too.
Well, Tom, you've been great. I want to say thank you to the staff at the Exotic Zoo. I've been here quite a lot over the last couple of weeks. You guys do a great job. It's not always easy. The weather's not always great. And it's an unpredictable environment to be in, I guess, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Brilliant. Well, you've been awesome today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Guys, don't go anywhere. I'll close this up with information on how you can find out more about the Exotic Zoo in Telford. But Tom, thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers. There we go. What a fantastic episode that was, Tom. You're a legend. How much knowledge could someone have in their head? Honestly, I feel like we could have sat there for another hour and spoken, but my mixer wouldn't allow it. Apologies for that, by the way. My mixer records 3 different versions of a podcast as it goes, and I was recording one at a time every time I was trying to clear up some space on my mixer. It's cleared up now, but it's a multi-track thing, so it records a full thread of audio, then it records a one for every single microphone that's used. So that's what was happening. But thank you so much to Scott, to Tom, and of course all the staff at Exotic Zoo in Telford. Always so accommodating. Scott always gives me a massive hug when he sees me. And this is going to be a partnership. I think it's going to create some amazing content for people to learn from. Really, really cool. This is going to be my last episode of the year. I will be back in 2026 very promptly, within a week. But I just want to say that 2025 has been a learning journey for me. If you are a constant listener of the Shrewsbury Biscuit, you'll know that there was a gap at the beginning of the year when I was trying to get my life together, at least swore then. My mental health, I've learned a lot about my mental health, learned about therapy, learned a lot of coping mechanisms. That has been an amazing journey. I'm feeling positive. I'm feeling happy, enthusiastic, and eager to make great content. There's so many plans that I just want to run with at the moment. I'm feeling so excited about things that I can make again because my head is now clear. Biscuit behind the boom, I had to find my button. Biscuit behind the boom there's going to be lots invested into that because I'm loving I've just been watching a show on Apple TV at the moment. Pluribus it's called, and it's just got me so inspired. Just the cinematography alone, the writing. I just want to I want to have the license to be able to speak to people that make shows like that. I mean, this is created by the same guy who created Breaking Bad, so I mean that's like high up there. But I mean, if I could speak to someone like that, that'd be amazing. Anyway, lots of content coming. There is going to be an opportunity to work with me. I will mention on the next podcast we hear because I'm putting something together that I need a co-host and a producer for. If you want to work with me, get in touch. I do possibly want to get in touch with the colleges and see if there's any young-minded media people out there that want to come work with me, because I want to speak to podcasters around the world, and I want to put a show together that we can do live, but I need a producer and I need a co-host. So if you want to get involved, I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, you can find me. My email is shrewsburybiscuitpodcast@gmail.com, but just message me on Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok, wherever you find us on social media. If you need to know more about me, you can go to my website, which is the shrewsburybiscuitpodcast.co.uk, and that's lovingly made for us by our sponsors, Web Orchard. If you need a website for anything that you are going to be doing in the world, they will sort you out with the perfect website for whatever you need. They're brilliant at what they do. And if you do go there, just because you heard it on the podcast, tell them Alex says hi. And then Pete will give me a pat on the back, maybe buy me a pint. I don't know. But Happy New Year to you guys. I hope 2026 does you well. And I will see you on the other side of the curtain, my friends. I will be there with my first show of 2026. And thank you so much for your support wherever you're listening to this show in the world. Much love to you all. Peace out.